Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on March 10th, 2023 at approximately 4:23 p.m. PST. Now, I returned to this world for one primary purpose, and that is to remind people that working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. I build myself as a spiritual guide because the tools I offer are the exact same tools I personally use in my day-to-day life, and the philosophies I talk about are the ones that I personally live by. Now, before I get into anything, I'm just going to scan up here a bit. And right off the bat, we have Kimberly in with the gold. Adam comes in right behind her with the silver. And then we slide down a bit. And that would be about, oh, nope, there we are. Henry comes in with the bronze. So, how y'all guys all doing today? I'm looking today at creativity and its origin and how it can affect not only your present, but your future as well. Okay, now the reality of it is, when we talk about, and that really is where it gets confusing right off the bat. Okay, when we're talking creativity, now creativity, the thought process starts up here in the etheric plane. Okay, comes from there. It'll either hit your heart as a real drive or a real pull to do something, or it'll hit your mind. Okay, as a thought of, gee, I should do this, or I'd like to experience this particular event or this particular creation, or gee, that's a really neat idea to build on. But until the two are connected, doesn't matter which one connects first, until you have both your thought and that heartfelt drive, the odds are you're not going to be making much headway with it. Okay, you think about it when it comes to my writing. Okay, I wrote the storyline back when I was 15, roughly 15. I was in grade 10. Okay, I was asked to write a storyline about a book, so I did. Here I am, 44 years later, with two of the books of the series in print. Okay, but it's only been really since 2017, about that'd be 6 years ago, that I really started pushing the idea of getting writing done. Okay, now I could go into the whole 9 yards of it, but let's take a look at your life. Okay, are you content with where your life is sitting at this moment? Okay, and if not, what about it are you not content with? Now I'm just scanning up here just to get back and see what I overlooked. Look at it, I'm just looking at this. And hi everyone, coming to you from a miserable snowy day in southern Alberta. Just think how much more miserable it would be if you had a tornado running through there. I mean, don't get me wrong, I don't like the snow much either, for one reason. Okay, it's not the snow I mind. For me, it's the ice, but then I've got a bad leg, so, I'm on a cane, and ice and a cane is just no fun. Okay, but if you're indoors and you're warm and you can look out the window and see the snow, to me, this is something that just sparks imagination. Sometimes on a positive side, sometimes on a negative. Sometimes it simply triggers a memory. Like when I think about a snowbank with a hard crust, where it's somewhat thawed out a little and then frozen over, so you got a real solid crust. It always brings back to mind this little dog that I had when I was in my late teens. Well, it was a family dog, but it was a little Pekingese, and he'd gone running out in the backyard, and the snow crust gave way underneath, and all we heard was this yip yip. We stick our head out the back door, and here his head is popping just up above the snow crust, right? Now, was he unhappy about being trapped there? Yeah, so we went out and got him. But you can look at that, or you can look at the idea of some of the other really, really negative things that come about. Like, for instance, being trapped on an ice floe, being trapped in a snowstorm, this sort of thing. But it really depends on how you let that creative mind of yours see it. That's where it can become interestingly complicated. Yeah, I was asked if we got snowed on today, and I was like, we didn't even get a flake. And yes, that this is coming from Canada. That neat little place they called Land of Ice and Snow. Got news for you. I'm really happy with the lack of it. Didn't quite go for a walk in my t-shirt today, but I did go for a walk in my sweater. Yeah, that would not surprise me. We were 2 above today there, Adam. Yeah, I'm just looking. Adam was saying it was minus 13 Celsius according to his truck, into the truck. From here, we were at 3 above, which really boils down to about just shy of 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Oh, nice. Yeah, and let's face it, Adam. I mean, I know enough about the trucking industry to realize that if you've got a heavy load, it's a little safer. There are points where it's a breaking point, I'm sure of it. Well, winter itself, Adam's just saying, I think winter's just angry. Winter isn't the one that's angry, in all fairness, but Mother Nature is not impressed. But that's a whole different ballgame, which we'll get into at a different point. I'm just scrolling down here. What have we got? Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Glad you could join us. I appreciate that there, Shadow. I actually got told, I got told something yesterday that I'm a very rude and inconsiderate individual. And that frankly I shouldn't be working in the industry I was working in. It threw me for a bit of a loop because I'm thinking, because I know what triggered the statement. The individual in question asked me a question. I told him the answer. I know he wasn't happy with the answer, but I did warn him, do not, and I will tell anybody this, do not make the mistake of trying to convince me that a nonprofit organization is a good idea. Don't get me wrong, they've been around for years. Doesn't mean I have to agree with them being a good idea. So from my standpoint, and I warned him ahead of time because he started down that road, and I said, look, the reality is, don't make the mistake of trying to convince me that this is good, because it's like trying to convince me that I should change my company to a corporation. And I'll tell you, the way the corporate laws are laid out right now, there is no way I would turn my company into a corporation. Who do we got just came through the door? Eris, how you doing? Glad you could join us. So I've been told that a couple of times in the last little while, primarily because I just simply, people ask you questions. It's like, do yourself a favor. You don't want an answer, don't ask me. And unfortunately, I'm running into that with a lot of people. Okay. And there's part of it that I'm not happy with, but I don't have the tolerance for it anymore. But when we have, and I keep trying to tell myself I've got the confidence, I've got the tolerance for it. But I'll tell you that hasn't worked worth a hoot. But I do want to do something here, considering I got a little sidetracked today. I want to open that little field there. And Shadow. Hey guys, this is This is Shadow's YouTube channel. Drop in and give a look-see if you like what he has to say. And I suspect you really will. Give him a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Now, I noticed, Kimberly, you're now into actually writing the book. What do we got here? Oh, I forgot. Yeah. Now you're going to have to forgive me there, Kimberly. Well, you don't have to forgive me. I just forget which one you were waiting for. But I am glad it arrived for you. And it also shows here you're now writing as well, which is absolutely fantastic. Yeah, I mean, I'm not upset with my life by any means. I've got a lot that I'm in the middle of doing. I'm very upset with the way the government is running things, or with the way that things are working out for me in a lot of fields. But life on the whole, it's like I tell people, I'm still breathing. Yeah, I'm still not pushing daisies. Now, we should minimize that so I don't have to look so lean so far forward. And we just scroll down a little further here because I know I'm a little behind. Thank you very much for clarification. Yeah, I'm just starting to tonight when I'm done with this stream. That's another one of the books I've already started posting with Believe in Yourself and Follow Your Dreams. Or I've already started posting with The Birth of the Wolf Pack, which is the Yldrbac Chronicles. Okay. I've already started posting with Mr. Dreamcatcher, and tonight I will start moving that one in. But I'll tell you, every single corporation that has told me that they would be able to help with the distribution, or they'd be able to help with marketing, every single one of them, without exception, has fed me this line. I've made the stupid move of turning money over to them, and they've done absolutely nothing. So I'm back at it. Yeah. The thing is, something you got to remember there, Kimberly, 14 chapters. I mean, we can take a look at it in two fashions. Number one, let's look at the big picture. 14 chapters in a book. Then any book you're writing, the size, quite seriously, and this could be taken all kinds of bad directions, but size really does not matter. Quality matters. Okay. And as long as you're telling your story the way you feel it requires being told, that is the critical factor. Do not pay attention to anybody that tells you it's not long enough, it's not written well enough, or any other number of things. This is one of the reasons why I will be talking to a lawyer in the very near future here, to make certain I get the right paperwork in place, because that side of it I do have to make sure of, so that people that have what many will call a small book will still have a way of getting printed. I'm just not that interested in having people go, oh, I've got this creative piece of work that I'd really like to put on the market. I'm not one of these people that's going to sit here and tell you you're not good enough to do it. Matter of fact, I'll tell you flat out you are. Okay, I've seen some of what is being written, or some of what's being posted. And I will tell you, in my opinion, there is a staggering amount that is nothing but, politely put, tripe. Okay, and yes, that is a very old word. Okay, but it's so much more polite than the current version. And like I said, I have a tendency, I've warned people in my other half, sort of had to get used to it, because my language is not always, if you will, from this time frame. But that's the way I've always been, at least as far as I recall. Now, back on what I was looking at, when we're looking at creativity, when you've got that thought process and the heart drive, That's when creativity comes into play. Now you think about it. I know you like this one, Shadow. Okay. You figure it. Somebody came up with the idea of figuring out how to carve out or how to pre-plan a mold, okay, to make this little munchkin. For those of you that don't know what this little munchkin is, this is a hill giant. A lot of fun to be around if you're looking to get turned into pancake paste. But creativity boils down to a very simple issue of, oh, excellent. Kimberly's just saying, Rob from Michigan Bigfoot enjoyed hearing my experiences when he called me last. Oh, fantastic. I do trust you're going to take him up on that and go on the show. And go on Rob's show. As a matter of fact, why don't we make sure of that side of things? See, I've got all these little doors open. All of these, where are we? Oh, no, he hasn't shown up yet. Where is Rob? This is the link to Rob's show. Okay, and again, absolutely, drop in when you see him, give him a listen. If you like what he says, give him a thumbs up, and absolutely subscribe to the channel. And of course, while I'm at it, I might as well get these ones in here, especially this one here. This one is Dave Scott's, okay, with Spaced Out Radio. And as most people here realize, I've been working with Dave now for over 8 years now. Okay, perfect. Kimberly. Now we've got his channel there. What time? Because I keep losing track of this. What time are you going on air? Yeah, this is a direct plug for Rob's show. The way I figured, like I said, working together, we can make this a better world for virtually everybody. But it is going to take us all time. Now, before I lose track of that, I'm going to go mark this down. On the 28th, here we go. I'm just taking the time out to write it on my calendar. So I've got that down. Now, hopefully we've got time here. 9 p.m. Eastern. Perfect. From my standpoint, that makes it 6 p.m. Pacific. Which means I will be late getting to it. That means I will be getting late getting to it, so I won't be there at the beginning, that's for certain. But I do encourage everybody in the room today to drop in at that time. And again, if you like what you're hearing, give them a thumbs up and do subscribe to the channel. Now, I'm already subscribed to Rob's channel. Okay, but we take a look at creativity from the standpoint of what do you do with it. So here's where we go with it. Easiest way in the world. And the easiest way I know of, let's put it that way. Okay, we've got all that working. That's always handy. This is why I keep this pad handy. Standard loose leaf paper, I know, I'm a dinosaur. And a cutting board, so I've got something hard I can set in my lap. So I don't end up poking a hole in my leg while I'm trying to write. Although that would be rough with a ballpoint pen. But when you've got something you desire to get dealt with. Now, what do we got here? Oh, well, thank you very much. I appreciate that. And say hi back to him. I'm going to have to drop in on his show a little more often. But things have gotten a little intriguingly hectic. Where are we? Okay, that's a list of chores I've got. Oh, this. I was writing a neat little section. I'm actually in the process today of adding another probably 4 or 5 pages to the middle of the end of the Return to Paradise. I am really pushing lately to get that finished. Okay. And so I've got that to do. And this neat little thing of taking this little book here, little book, my eyeball. This book is only 64 pages, I think. This particular book, Races of the World, yeah, is 64. But the second printing that I'm working to tie off is 84 pages already, and I've only gone through the first third. So it's going to be, to say the least, a little bigger than the last one. In all fairness, I did not realize it was going to be that much bigger. But I've got another 5. I think I've got 5. There can't be 10 more. I haven't got the list in front of me right now, which I can cure that in a hurry. Creativity takes on all sorts of fashions. The hardest part I find, let's see, art. That's all the different pictures I've got. But let's go back to here. And where is that little sheet that I needed? Well, of course it wouldn't be there. If worst case scenario, I'll go back through it and find out which pictures are finished. But when you take a look, the one thing that I have found really complicated, okay, in some ways, is the logic brain is what you do to organize. Okay. But the creative side is what you do to mobilize, essentially. Okay, you go logically, I've got to get these steps finished. But it's that creative side of yours that is really going to take place. Now, I will tell you, especially since we're looking at writing at this point, I'm just going to put this out there for you, Kimberly. You get to write your book your way. Obviously, I am not the one to tell you how you should write your book. I'm the one to tell me and to tell my editor, and quite frankly, my executive assistant, how I desire my book to read. It's that simple. That's the only person I can tell how to write. Okay, unless somebody asked me for pointers on what I was doing. But one thing I did find, especially when I'm writing, is I'll get a point down and then I'll have to go back through it. And when I go back through it, I can add more clarity or more detail to it. You may well find, especially when you're dealing with your own memories, you will likely find that is something that happens. And the other thing about it, hey, Dogface, how you doing? Glad you could join us. One thing that I've always found with artwork of any form, whether you're drawing, whether you're writing, doesn't matter, whether you're baking. Okay, well, baking, I guess it does actually have a finished point. But most creative work, especially writing or drawing, writing, drawing, painting, that sort of thing, okay, doesn't finish. You just stop doing it and carry on. It wasn't bad enough that I already had 33 books already simultaneously being written. I had to go and add an extra 3 just because that's the way it worked out. So I've been getting them onto my desktop so I can get them all doing and going in the right direction. That I don't need. What is that piece? See, I end up with so many little bits of paper. What is that? Oh, that was that. Okay. When you're looking at... what do we got? That is an excellent idea, Kimberly. I mean, I was an English major, and I'll tell you, my editor is picky as they get, and you really desire one. You desire one that you trust. How it turns out doesn't matter. Well, it matters, but it matters more to you about the finished product. But don't let anybody tell you it's not long enough, it's not exciting enough. Sorry, you lived your life your way, they're your memories, that's the way it goes. I mean, and the one thing I did find is the way I speak is not the way I write. Okay. Although it is similar in some ways. I think it's fabulous that you've got somebody that you can trust that can go through and proof it for you. Because I will tell you, typos will stand out for somebody that's proofing, where you writing them may not notice them. I've had two people in the last, I guess the last week, that went to send me email to my business, and both of them screwed up at different points with double letters. Okay, because as you guys have seen, and where is that funny little detail here? Go to there. This is my email address. Okay. This is the address people get a hold of me through. It's the easiest one anyway. Assuming, of course, I can get the thing to actually pop. Here we go. But you'll notice there are 2 N's and 2 E's in that email address. Well, one person put in 3 E's, and one person put in too many N's in enterprise. Okay. So it didn't get to me. So it's just a question of sometimes a simple thing like that, a simple oversight like that can be about a pain in the head, as big a pain in the neck as you can get. Well, let's just shrink that down. That is an excellent way to do it, Kimberly. It really is. If that's the way that you write, and it's a great way to write, don't get me wrong. It's a fantastic way to write, because writing as you are is the way to do it, in my opinion. Okay. You don't have to write so that I like the sound of it. You have to write so that you like the sound of it. Because I will tell you this, whatever you're striving to create, whether it's a work of art or a business, it doesn't matter. If you're not content with it, you're not going to be as vested in it. Okay. Now, I've run into enough troubles that, and I will warn you, from my standpoint, will I turn around and publish other people's works? You bet your bottom dollar. Assuming that things don't go sour the way they're looking like they're going to. But am I going to be very cautious? Absolutely. But when you're looking at getting a product printed and done, it's absolutely imperative you stand your ground on what is right for you. Okay. In my case, it's a real simple issue. I've got a story that came to me way back when I was 15. That was where the Yldrbac Chronicles came from. The self-help ones came from the fact that I was dealing with so many people from a so-called psychic standpoint. I don't personally, and I've always said this, I do not like the term psychic. It's got a lot of negative connotations. Okay. And the thing that I always warn people, especially if I'm going into a private conversation with them, okay, or into a consultation. Number one, I am direct, I am very to the point, and very rarely am I apologetic for the way something comes out. I do my best not to swear at people, but the reality is, I look at things and go, this is what I'm seeing. But unfortunately, I can't necessarily explain it. I mean, let's face it, telling somebody this feels wrong or this doesn't connect is not something you can really put in solid terms that I've found. Okay. Now, I am curious, Kimberly. Okay, and it's certainly not a one way or the other, as it were. But I am curious if you're intending on putting pictures, either pencil or more advanced, or photographs in this book, or if you're just doing it on a written side. Because in my opinion, both work beautifully. Okay, these people that tell you have to have pictures to make it more exciting, I'll tell you, you have to have pictures if you're dealing with a children's book. If you want the child engaged, yes, pictures are kind of necessary. Okay, which is why, not that one, that's a sequel. Why this one, okay, as you can see, it's got pictures. Okay, and I am looking for somebody that is able to produce this particular dream catcher in bulk. The reason being, I am looking at getting them made. I personally do not have the talent, as it were, especially not with my left hand not working right, to actually make the dream catchers. I just know how they work. And the really sad part about this particular one is I wrote that for my son. Okay, for my eldest son. And when I wrote it, I took it actually to First Nations. Now understand, I am not legally listed as First Nations, which I don't really care. Okay, because I don't see them as any different than me. Well, that's not entirely true, but I don't see them as any different than anybody else. But I took it to First Nations, and I kid you not, these geniuses turned around and told me it was the best story they'd ever read in that capacity. Except I'm not First Nations, so they won't move it. That's an excellent way to add to the quality of it. Okay, like Kimberly's just saying, she was going to put in some handwritten poems that I wrote due to some hard times from the experiences. Those are absolutely a way to enhance the impact of the book. Okay, the one question I always ask people when you're looking at creating a work of art, which, by the way, writing is a work of art. When you're creating a work of art, what are you striving to portray? Okay. Now, we pull this back. This particular series, okay, I found a way when I was in grade 10, okay, I found a way at 15 years old to combine creationism, evolution, ancient races, aliens, humans, technology and magic, okay, and the end of the world and the rebirth of a new one, all neatly under one package. Okay. Just a thought, Kimberly. That's one I've been working on my own as well. As a matter of fact, it's one I will be putting out this year. But have you considered taking those poems and putting them into a book of their own? Into just, and pardon me if I pronounce this wrong, but have you considered putting your poems into a book with a rough title of, Poems by Kimberly Paget? Okay, just as another way of doing the exact same thing, because I will tell you, I waited this long. I have no idea how old you are and have less interest. Let's face it, from my standpoint, but the only reason it matters to me is it does tell me what kind of knowledge base I'm looking at. But if you put them into, that field, there are two things that happen. One is you've got another source of income, another potential source of income. And two that, if you decide to go that route, make sure you list in both the memoirs. In memoirs, you list off that you've got this book of poems also, and we're sitting at the same age. Because give me another 2 months, I'll hit 60. You're kidding me. Now I hit 60 on the 13th. I know another individual that hit 60 on the 9th. But yeah, if you take the book of poems, you can also buy the memoir. I've also got the memoirs written. This is an excellent way to enhance your visibility. There you go. Yeah, a good friend of mine was born May 28th. I haven't seen her in literally 40 years. I left the company, and I left that company to go to work elsewhere, and we ended up missing things. But no, it's just a thought where it comes to that side of your creative side, because I will tell you, by the time, and this is just a reality of life, when our parents were getting older, there were a lot more people working to supply pensions. In our world, there are not as many people working, and even less that have an interest in working. So we got to look at a way of generating an extra income. Now, personally, I hope your book becomes a bestseller. Do understand, writing is never a competition with anybody. Artwork is never a competition. Okay. Well, I shouldn't say it isn't ever, but on the long side. Oops. Now you understand the problem I have. I had 33 books on the go already that I was working on. Tied off the Yldrbacian Chronicles properly, and I went, okay, tied it off in such a way it leads right back to the beginning. And then all of a sudden I'm sitting there going, but if they go right instead of going left, they can go into a whole new story. And I've already started piecing together how that's going to come about. The one problem with writing, I find, is it becomes somewhat addictive. Well, here's the neat thing, Kimberly. And like I had a girlfriend at one point that she wanted to get in front of up on stage. And I looked at her and I said, I'll tell you what, you really want to get on stage. Now, bear in mind, I am not much of a public speaker. I just happen to have a way of looking at things. And I told her flat out, I said, you want on stage? I said, okay. And she was used to working in karaoke bars. So I said, well, why don't we just put you in front of 50,000 people? And she goes, you can't do that. I said, how about if we don't discuss what I can or cannot do? And we'll just put you in front of 50,000. Now, in all fairness, she was right. I did not get her in front of 50,000 people. I got her in front of 34. Okay, so she was right. I didn't hit the 50 mark. Right. But there is a neat way to dealing with publicity, dealing with the publicity and all the attention. All you have to do, all you really have to do there is when they say, I want to do an interview, you go, well, that's fine. This is when you can do it, or I'm not interested in doing an interview with you. And I do suggest, and it's something that I've got to deal with, I've got to find a PR person. Because I will tell you, my PR is, well, let's just politely say, go away. I'm just looking at it, Yeah, and that can be a lot, the attention can be interesting for a short period. Like the few times I have gone to speak in front of a UFO conference, I was fine with standing up there. But I am reclusive, and I'm getting more that way. But the neat part about that is while I'm getting more reclusive, I'm beginning to do a whole lot more in the way of writing. But the creative side, when you get an idea in your head, like I decided that this room was going to be cleared of clutter. Okay. Well, that was a great decision, but it wasn't until I started acting on it. Okay. Oh, don't you love Horatio over here? In all fairness, this chap is not Horatio. When I first picked this up, and no, it is not real, it is plastic. But when I first picked it up, it had a complete mandible. But I had to go show up, and I told them point blank, if you want to have it, if you want to stick around, knock yourself out. Knock yourself out. Right. But this thing. Should have brought that a little closer. It says here, call it your home. Right. Now, do understand, this is plastic. Okay, and you can tell right there. Well, you can't really tell. I don't think you can tell it's plastic, but it is actually plastic. When I first had it, it had a working mandible. But told the ghost, and she was there for years. Turned out the ghost that had shown up was a girl I'd been dating back in 1928. Had just been starting to get to date, and she ended up getting shot. Was not nice. I ended up getting shot too that day. I just didn't die from it. But with that in mind, she showed up, and I told her, I said, absolutely, and I was married at the time. I said, absolutely, pull up a stump. You can sleep in the skull. Then I found out, and it's a good thing I didn't actually date this woman, because it turned out that she was extremely possessive, to the point that after she died, she wanted to kill my current wife. So I just told her flat out, I said, that's it, you're leaving. And I didn't even have the courtesy to go into a trance when I threw her out. And the mandible on the mandible itself snapped in 3 places, sitting on the counter. After that, I never saw her again, which I wasn't too terribly unhappy with. I wasn't interested in having my wife killed by anybody. Still not interested in having she's not my ex-wife, but I still got no interest in a dead thing. But, her name was Sam, which is really, really neat when you think in 1928, I was starting to date this young lass, Sam. In 1828, I was dating a young lass by the name of Shannon. Her I met, she's an absolute doll. Happily married lass I knew. But I did get to meet her. And again, these are all things that are part of the creative world. What you've got up here. Okay, there's going to come a time when every one of you is going to pass. Okay, we've all got that in common. Now, if you're looking for immortality, this is kind of a way of getting it. Okay, because as you can see, I've got my name printed. Okay, every author does. It doesn't make me anything special. Okay, but... Oh, Kimberly's just going, wow. I'm on a chapter of that right now, of a reading I did for a woman. She was so mad at her husband that she got remarried after she died. Whoa. Mad at her husband that got remarried after she died. Yeah, isn't that, now, there's things like that. You look at synchronicities, it's like, of all the topics to pop up, to have that come to light at right this moment. And just remember, this is one little, and I realize you're not asking for input. I've got a tendency to put my foot in my mouth. The more senses you can involve in your writing, okay, the more senses you involve, the more entrancing it'll be. Okay, now, I'm looking at these, and there will be a second printing. This one, I'm making some pretty severe changes to, as far as the linguistics go. I've got to double check the sequel to make sure that the languages are all in a different font, because I've had a lot of comments from people about the fact I got a lot of flack for it when I changed the font for the different languages in the Birth of the Wolf Pack. I got a lot of flack from people when I started writing it, especially from my editor at the time. But the people that have been reading it I've been getting constant comments about how it does add to it. But I will tell you, the more you can involve people, the more you can put them in the scene, the better off they are. Now, with memoirs, it's a bit of a different setup. Okay, because all you're doing, that's a really bad way of putting it. See, I've got a book that I haven't put in print yet called My Yesterday's Tomorrow. Okay, and it is literally a channeled autobiography that covers from my early years all the way to becoming an adult. But it is one book that I absolutely will not be removing will not be correcting the spelling on. Okay, what I haven't quite figured out is, because I've got, I think, 4 books I'm really striving to get out this year. Okay, that being The Return to Paradise, the second printing of Races of the Worlds. Okay, yeah, those 2 will certainly be out. Okay, I had 2 others I was working. Oh, probably going to get out Believe in Your, well, I've got Believe in Yourself and Believe in Your Business right now, but I'm seriously going to try and get Believe in Your Success out. Okay, which is another one in this Believe in Your series. And yes, in case you haven't noticed, I have a tendency of writing things in series. Okay, but creativity is a way, when you produce a written work, a picture, and I'm not the one to tell you whether you're a good artist. I mean, you've seen some of my artwork. I'm not the one to say this is good art. I am the one to tell you, if you're content with it, get it listed, get it created, and you stand your ground on going, this is what I consider art. This is my work. This is what I'm proud of. Okay. When it comes to setting a price, you always look at the price at something you would pay. Okay. That's the biggest thing you have to look at. Oh, I'm just looking at this. Kimberly said her spirit was so mad that she threw a dog down the stairs. Well, I'm glad the dog was fine. But yeah, I mean, it's bizarre, some of the things that can happen. And then you have people you talk to about, oh, I had a ghost in my house. And they go, no, it's just your imagination. I'll tell you, that dog did not see that as your imagination. Okay. I remember one day when I was still married, my wife and I were discussing what we were going to have for dinner. I know none of you guys ever run into that problem, right? Trying to figure out what's for dinner. What am I going to make? I've got all these options, and what am I going to make? Well, we had an interesting little problem. We turned around, and we're not arguing. We were literally discussing and running through ideas. So I walked over into the fridge. I opened the fridge door, and our fridge at the time was not overloaded. Okay, we didn't have much in it. But I opened the fridge door, and all of a sudden this little casserole dish went sailing out of the fridge, and landed upright in the middle of the dining room floor, or in the middle of the kitchen floor. My wife calls out. She goes, "What was that?" I says, "The fridge just threw the tuna casserole out for us. That's what we're having for dinner." And I have no idea why it did that. I didn't really care. Yeah, that's pretty much the way you have to do it. It's like, okay, you're no longer welcome here. I didn't mind you hanging around, but enough is enough. And we could go in all kinds of directions with things that have happened in the metaphysical world. But I will tell you, the reason I decided to look at the creative side of things is because it applies to every aspect of your life, every aspect of your neighbor's life, every aspect of your family's life. Whatever you're striving to create, whatever life you desire to have. Your creative side is the way to get there. Now, that said, the imagination is the absolute key to the higher senses. Okay, now something I'm just going to put this out there because, well, that's what I do. If you like the stream, do me a favor and give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed, if you'll be kind enough to hit that subscribe button, that would be really appreciated. Because this year, I am aiming at the 1,000 subscriptions. But that's because, from everything I've come to understand, that's when when YouTube starts actually generating a little income for me. Okay. Am I ever going to turn this into, like I've seen some YouTubers do it? They go, oh, I've got all these people. Now I'm going to charge to get to my stuff because I'm famous. Well, I'll tell you, I am no more famous than the next person, other than my mouth. It seems to get me into trouble. You know, but I like I've told you guys before, I've been country since I was born. Really. But Miranda Lambert put out a song called Everyone's Famous. Well, at least the song is about Everyone's Famous in a Small Town. I don't know if that's the actual title, but it's very true. And the thing is, it doesn't matter what city you live in. Take a look at what city you live in, what city your friends live in, and take a look at the amount they travel. The massive majority of people live their life inside a 9-block square area, no matter how big the city is. Okay. And the trick to that, the reality is, if you reach out to people, if you actually talk to them, I stay away from people, but I talk to everybody when I get outside my apartment. I just don't leave my apartment much. Like, I wasn't planning on leaving today, and then it dawned on me I better get a walk in. And, I don't have a lot of room in my apartment. It's only 1,000 square feet. You'd be walking back and forth pretty regularly. And that can be tiring, not to mention hard on my leg. But when you're looking at the creative side of your life, start, like I call it a dream board, when you start off, where are we here? Artwork there. Just looking for what I did with it. And of course, can't find it right now because I forgot. Because I forgot what I did with it. Forgot what I found it under really was what it boiled down to. But I got to really get started on this. But, I've got 12 items that I've listed off that I desire to get wrapped up before the end of this year. Okay. Some of it I've got on the go quite nicely. But you start off with just simply a sheet of paper, or if you want, get a great big huge wall-mounted board. It doesn't matter. Give yourself something to look at that turns around and reminds you when you see it that this is a project you're working on. Now, fortunately, in my case, my brain works a little weird, but it works for me. And I certainly do not tell people you've got to do things my way because it's the only way to do it. If it were the only way to do it, we'd have a very big problem. Once you've got a vision board done and you've got a couple of things on it, each one of those things, this is where the power of the list comes in. Each one of those little projects, you start breaking down into smaller projects of 15 minutes to half an hour in duration. Okay. And the reason for that is by putting them together in a small list. Okay. What you'll end up doing is you'll be able to look at it. You'll be able to look at it and get the job, and get the, you'll be able to look at it, get the smaller jobs done, and before you know it, you've completed that task. and your dream is now a reality. Okay. Oh, quick little update. I've already told you I've got, obviously, book 1 and book, the Birth of the Wolf Pack and the End of an Epoch are out. The next book coming out is The Return to Paradise. The cover artwork is already done for it. Where it all began is the next one in line. The cover work's done for it. Okay, and it's already half written. And now I just heard from my artist in England that the artwork for the next book, for book 2, is almost ready to go. Okay, which technically speaking, when you think about it, actually is the 5th book that'll be coming out. And again, this is simply a question of getting a thought in my head. I've got this great big massive project. Like, I didn't have enough, so I had an extra one. But I've got this great big massive project that I really do desire to get finished off. Okay. I absolutely desire to get it finished off. But I've got this big project, and that's where my focus is. Okay. I've started posting it on the different sci-fi and science fiction groups on Facebook. And I am looking for ways to get it advertised elsewhere. My problem is, of course, finances, which it probably is for you as well. Okay, because I don't know about you, but money does not seem to grow on trees. Although I have run into some interesting trees in my life, not the least of which is you can find videos of these, by the way. We talk about walking trees, but there are videos on YouTube, and you get to judge whether they're real or not. Okay, that show trees. I kid you not, they look like they're moving at about 20 miles an hour. These are, quite literally, they're arborean. Okay. Don't have any here. Okay, but this, the saying is that, reality is, truth is stranger than fiction. I'll tell you, it really is. But for those of you that have this brilliant idea that thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, you might be overstating it. Because if that were the case, this book revolves around Earth, around mankind's civilization buckling completely and then having to rebuild it. Now, if that's all it takes to destroy the world, a lot of people did that way before I came along. Okay. We've got a lot of people come up with ways of wiping out the world, with ways of blowing things up. Now, if it were in fact a truth, okay, they're kind of neat, aren't they, Kimberly? I actually taught one girlfriend that I had how to actually hear the trees, how to actually listen to them. Of course, shortly after I showed her that, she decided that staying with me was a little too pressing, a little too complicated. Now, maybe obviously I did something that was not exactly conducive to the relationship. See, I'm lucky. I really am, because right now, my appearance, people can say what they will about it. My other half, I never have to worry about her seeing it. I figure it works out well. She's blind. But I tell you, for her being blind, she sees so much more than people that can see. It's just absolutely amazing. But when you look at what you're aiming at creating, okay. Oh, nice. I am curious. When Kimberly's just saying, I have a recording of a tree that said something to me. I'm going to ask what's going to sound like an absolutely obtuse question, but is the sound something that you can actually make the words out in? Or for that matter, do you recall what the word said? Nice. Yeah, see, there are female spirit. There are female spirits. There are some male spirits, by the way. But they are known in by a number of different names. But the one I learned of them being called was dryads, and there are male dryads. Otherwise, you wouldn't end up with male and female trees. Kind of works out that way. It's kind of like, the tree spirit that comes out to talk to you is very much akin to the human soul that leaves its body for astral travel to talk to you. It's the same idea, it just happens to be a different soul. But that is actually, it's by talking to the trees, by talking to the grass and the rocks and the animals that I get most of my news. Okay. It was funny because I remember being down in Victoria on Vancouver Island. I was down there with my boys. There we go. Yeah, Kimberly she says, the tree had a hole in the middle of the trunk, and I put a recorder in her. I asked if she saw a lot of death where she stood, and the voice said, I have. Yeah, the neat part about it is trees see death in a different fashion than what people do. Trees on the whole don't fear death. Okay, in all fairness, most animals don't fear death. Yeah, that would explain the lots of death. But they witness a staggering amount. And when I actually wrote a poem, I wrote a poem called Nature's Record. Okay, that it will be included in the poetic anthology. I was debating whether or not to bother with the idea of printing them out just as individuals, but I do have to get more ink anyway. Because again, it was one of those neat little poems like you, Kimberly. I have no idea how many. Okay, but I usually write poems when I get in that mood, either poems or songs. Some of them have ended up in these books. Okay, but when you're looking at the creative side, whatever you're aiming to change your life to look like, it comes from your creative side. Logic may say, I've got to change the way my world's going. Okay, now, there's always these, and one thing that I will tell you, Kimberly, is where it comes to the book itself. Contents, how you want to write it, what you want, how you desire to put it together. That's up to you, obviously. But I will tell you, the theory is having a cover that speaks is important. But I will caution you. I saw a book written that sold extremely well, and it was a straight green cover with gold embossed, with gold or yellow embossed printing on it, and it literally said, all it said was the Green Book. Now, it apparently sold really well. Okay. So I'm looking at it going, I look at the creative side, and now I've got all these ideas coming up and absolutely no money to work with. This is brilliant. Had I come up with these ideas decades back, I'll tell you I would be in a heck of a sight better shape. This said, if you're listening to this video and you've got an idea for a writing project, for a piece of art, for a sculpture, whatever it is, get on it. Okay. Do not wait until your later years to get there. Because I'll tell you, if you've got the money now, far better to use the money on a hobby that is going to leave a lasting impression than, frankly, on a bottle of beer or a joint. Okay. Mind you, in all fairness, I would rather spend time, and I spent a lot of time smoking joints, but I'd rather do that than spend time in the joint. Though I've got a lot of friends that spend time there. Myself, I'm lucky. And I'll call it lucky. But in all my life, I've never even pulled over a speeding ticket. And since I don't speed anymore, but I do speed a lot less. Yeah. Kimberly's saying, I want to come across It's a Diary or Memoirs of the on for the cover. Absolutely. And why not? There's an old saying, and I did take a course in business when I was in high school. And there is an old saying that goes, keep it simple, stupid. Okay. I like the slightly slightly more positive one that goes, keep it simple, silly. Okay. But a simple title gets the point across. And I mean, you've got I think they said something like 3 seconds to get people's attention with the cover. Now that cover apparently stands out reasonably well. And as you can see, it's not exactly a small book. Okay. But that's coming along. I'll be doing a lot of work on it tonight once I'm done the stream today. Because I've still got about 60 pages, but I know exactly where they fit. That's the neat part, is I went through it today because I've already got it dealt with to the end of the story. All I'm doing is going in and filling in details. But the gaps that I've got, I know where the extra pages are coming from. So we're going to make good headway on that one. It's just a question of taking the time to write it. And the one thing I did find is that sitting down for 8-10 hours at a time is really hard on my system. So I'm no longer interested in doing that without taking breaks. But that can be a case of get up, go for a walk up and down the hall, come back and carry on writing. And I'll tell you, Kimberly, if you're anything like I am where it comes to writing, you may run into that problem. You get into a point and you're going, oh, but I've got to finish this. I remember I was writing a section out. I was sitting in a restaurant and I'm writing a section out, and I was only supposed to be there for half, 3/4 of an hour while I had a coffee. Turned out I got into a section I really desired to get written. And it was an hour and a half later, and I finally got up and left. But always, when you're working on creating something, make sure it speaks to you, that it says what you're aiming for. Whether it's a sculpture, and rest assured, we don't desire to see what I do for sculpture. Okay. My drawing's bad enough. My sculpture's worse. Okay. And no, I don't recall the last time I built a sculpture of any form. Yeah, no doubt. If you're already there, I find I do a lot of my writing. I do a lot of my writing sitting in a comfortable place, writing on paper, and then transfer the first run of it to the computer to add to it. But I'll tell you, that created some problems a little while ago. One thing about this is whatever you're aiming at building, okay, whatever you're aiming at building, whatever you're aiming at writing, you write what you feel is what you're striving to say, not what somebody else is striving to get you to say, unless you're in a class that says you got to write about this. Okay. If you're in a creative class, whether it's art class, writing class, doesn't matter, and they give you a project, that's the one you do, whether you like it or not, is not the relevant factor. Right. But when you're writing for your own purpose, or when you're drawing something for your own purpose, draw what you feel content with. Okay. I wonder if that's sitting there. I don't think it is sitting there yet. Nope, somewhere in my files. Let's take a look at this one. We go to a projects. Just looking for something here that dawned on me that I may actually have. And no, by the look of it, I'm not going to find it in a hurry. I'm not going to stand upside down here for too long. Primarily because it gets really hard on the system. No. But no, when you're dealing with whatever creative project you're on, I found I'm really good at stick people. I can draw a stick person that fell down the stairs, landing in a carburetor, and then flopped out in the middle of traffic, But and I mean, it just absolutely floored me. And this is why I say, people, I'm not the one to tell you whether your artwork is good. They had a cartoon on that went into syndication that was literally stick people. Now, to me, this was, for me, this is not artwork I'm happy with. Okay. Matter of fact, it was because of that I refused to watch the show at all. Maybe it was a good show. I don't know. But write, draw, cook, doesn't matter. Do it from your heart. Okay, that is the critical factor. That is where you'll make the difference. Come to think of it, that's not a bad idea. Oh, sorry. Bad sidetrack. I've got to make dinner when I get done with this stream. I was just thinking. I lucked out. I went into the shop that I bought all my figures from, and they had a cookbook in there called the Dungeons and Dragons Cookbook. Okay. And the guy, he had a whole stack of them. And he goes, he calls me aside as I come through the door. He goes, "We just got these in. Thought you might like them." So, I took a look at them, picked up one for me, picked up, I think, 4 or 5 others to give to gamers I knew. And maybe it's time I started actually working with it, since I did decide it was time to start cooking. But no, when here's a neat idea for you guys, and this is why I say marketing is so important if you're striving to take your creative side out into the public market. You look at diamonds, and diamonds are one of the most pricey little gemstones that you can get. Okay, but everybody desires them. The silly part about it, and do your own research, do not take my word for it. Okay, but my understanding is that diamonds are one of the most common gemstones in existence on this planet. Okay, but the guy that decided to start selling them marketed them in such a way that everybody desires one right now. We're getting married. We got to get a diamond. I look at it going, I'm getting married. I got to get a potential wife. I got to get a fiance. That's the critical issue from my standpoint. I don't know. Maybe I got something wrong there. I'm thinking the fiance is far more important than the ring. Hey, Nightmare, how you doing? Glad you could join us. Just looking for my time here. There we are. The funny part about it from my end, okay, is we take a look at the way you're doing things. If you're creating something just to leave for your kids or for the people that then marketing becomes a who cares. If you're looking at striving to actually nicely done, Adam. Very well done. Yeah, there are different ways of doing it. And my personal opinion on it, for what it's worth, is, here's something to consider, especially if you're people that are considering. Yeah, that would do it, Dogface. Didn't see you come in, or did I? But in either event, welcome aboard. But yeah, you make things seem like they're rare, and all of a sudden you've got a gold mine on your hands. But I always looked at it this way. if you're looking at at proposing to your girlfriend, proposing to your boyfriend, it doesn't matter. Okay, you've got these really neat ideas. You got this idea. I want to put a ring on their finger, and we started off when I was in school. It was your class ring that you would give somebody, right? Then you get a class ring. Then you get a promise ring that says, I'm going to ask you to marry you one day and me one day. Then you get an engagement ring when you do ask them. Then you get a wedding ring. Well, it's a cute thought, and I'm all for tradition. Don't get me wrong. In my case, the woman that I ended up marrying, my first wife, I did give her my class ring to start with. We actually didn't go to school together. We weren't in the same school at all. Right. As a matter of fact, by the time I met her, I had already graduated. But I turned around, I gave her my class ring, but when I gave her the promise ring, and this is what I found out the real important difference between a promise ring and an engagement ring. Okay. And does anybody have any idea what the real fundamental difference is between a promise ring and an engagement ring? And yeah, I know. What's that got to do with creativity? Thinking. But I got looking at it. I'm like, okay, a promise ring says I'm going to ask you to marry me one day. So I took a $14 promise ring. And when I gave it to my girlfriend at the time, I asked her to marry me with just a $14 promise ring. She said yes. We ended up married for 16 years. But here's the thing. What I found was the difference, okay, was about $1,500. Okay. Because I bought her a $40 promise ring. Asked her to marry me. We managed to get loaded. Managed to get married. Isn't that neat? Adam's just going, hey, Henry, want to go for a truck ride? I'm just leaving Calgary for the hat. And that puts Henry somewhere in your area, I presume. But make absolutely certain you stay safe out there, Adam. From what I gather, the roads are a bit of a nightmare. But no, I came to the understanding that the difference between the rings was nothing but a dollar sign. The sad part is when I was in high school, I wouldn't talk to people. Oh, that's excellent. It's always nice when friends can meet and when friends, I know people that they can't talk to each other because they don't see each other very much face to face. But they meet online all the time. I knew of one couple, it was sad in a way. They would spend hours on the phone, right? They'd go to sleep together, like listening to each other breathe on the phone. But when they finally got to meet each other face to face, what ended up happening was they couldn't speak to each other. So the relationship ended up buckling. Oh, nice. I do hope you two decide to do. I do hope, Henry, that you do join him. The trip out would be a great. I always found it more enjoyable to have somebody else in the vehicle when you're driving. Whether you drive for a living or not, having company still more often than not is actually a really good thing. Okay, and again, it creates memories that you can take with you until the day you drop dead, assuming your mind doesn't collapse in the process. That's just the reality behind it. one of the biggest things that we have to look at when we're looking at the creative side of your life, take a look at whether you're content with you. When I was told just yesterday, and it's the second time in the last little while that somebody was kind enough to inform me that I was extremely rude. I think it had something to do with the fact I told them that I was going to hang up on them. Mind you, I've done that to a lot of people. But I find I'm just looking back on it. I'm thinking the people that usually tell me, that you're being rude, it's usually because they pushed an issue and didn't like my answer. Here I am talking about this little possible joint together here between Henry and Adam. I'm going, this is actually a really good idea. I have had people go, can I meet with you? And I'm like, yeah, but there's only one restaurant in the city I go to, so that's where that is. And yes, I have ended up meeting people face to face. And the same goes to you guys. If you're ever in Kelowna, BC, and you decide you want to get together, all you got to do is contact me. There's all sorts of ways of doing so. Hey, me, how you doing? Glad you could join us. But yes, being yourself is the only way that you can function, because you can certainly pretend to be somebody you're not, but it will come back to being you in the long run. Okay, so from my standpoint, it really boils down to, if people desire to sit down with me for coffee, I got no problem with it. If you want, and the nice thing is, I go to a licensed restaurant. And so if you're somebody that enjoys a beer, and not coffee, it works out quite well. Don't be surprised if I'm not drinking beer with you. Got nothing to do with not liking you. It's got to do with the fact I gave up drinking decades ago and never did like beer to start with. So, a couple of the things that you have to look at here, well, you don't have to. When you're striving to get your life doing what you desire, the first key is to get an idea in your head what you're happy with. Are you content with your life? It was funny. I was told by an individual one day, a good way to start being a little more civilized is to apologize for what you said. And I'm thinking to myself, yeah, I could apologize, but that would indicate I was actually sorry. And like I've told you guys, I am not about to apologize to somebody for something if I don't feel it's right. If I don't feel I'm supposed to. Even growing up, I used to get forced into apologies, and I kid you not. My mom forced me one day. She said, you have to apologize for this. I forget what the issue was, but I remember my response. It was quite mean. I looked at the individual in question, and I said, please accept my most insincere apology to date. They were happy. Mom was happy because I had apologized. I was happy because, well, I apologized and they were happy. But it's amazing how many people I ended up doing that to when I was growing up that missed the obvious. But, I thought I was a little off kilter until I met one girlfriend of mine, and she was forced to apologize to her brother because she called her brother stupid. She turns around and looks at her brother right in front of her mom and goes, I'm sorry you're so stupid. Apparently that was not a good apology because mom was not happy. But again, it really boils down to taking a look at where your life is. Are you content with the way your life is going? Okay. As you can see, this is just a bucket of the little figures I'm painting. Okay, I got a bunch of them in here because I'm doing a whole bunch at the same time. But, these guys all start out the same way. They all start out that color, and then I paint over them. But I'm using, for the most part, I'm using toothpicks. But that's one of the characters. This is a character that I've got that is and he is literally dressed in these colors. Okay. For those of you that know Dungeons and Dragons, where did I put my eyeballs? Right in front of me, of course. Yep, D&D figs. That is correct, me. I've been playing Dungeons and Dragons since June of 1976. I've literally been doing it an average of twice a week. Now, this little chap here is half Kender, half Wood Elf. Yeah, half Kender, half Wood Elf. Bit of a kleptomaniac, but what the heck. And then I've got this little guy who is a secondary game that I'm running. This guy is a forest gnome. Okay. This one I'm building an empire with. This one, the guy is just a little bit, he's running sort of second seat with my son because we're running a dual game, just the two of us. And then this little guy here, is a high elf. Okay. But he's a fighter, he happens to be a fighter sorcerer actually, that is working as an assassin. But these are 3 different campaigns that are going on at the same time. And, we've even gone so far as to get figures like the pack horse. And I've got finished painting him. He's a piece of work he's a work of art in the process. But this is why I say virtually everything is actually connected. Oh, didn't realize I had him in here. In the Yldrbac Chronicles, you'll run into subterranean lizards. Okay. And this is one of those subterranean lizards. Now, if you look at it, okay, I'm just trying to get it turned here. Yeah, there. That'll work. If you look at it here, he's got a leg there. He's got a leg here. And there. We are dealing with a 6-legged critter. Okay, and take a look at the size of him compared to just a standard human. Okay, in one scene in the Return to Paradise, we've got this little critter coming out and grabbing this guy. Well, grabbing somebody this size. And look at the size difference. Okay, when I decided to write, and I've got access to all these figures, I figured why not why not get the figures for them? Now, that said, show you the other one. And again, this is why I say it's all connected. Okay. This little ass here, okay, is another one. Now, of course, I did not paint this one. I did not make this one. I stumbled across it. But here we have an Yldrbac. Also, now that will be, I've already figured out how to pull that off properly. In the elfin tongue, that's an Yldrbac. In human tongue, that will be dragon. But look at the size of it. Okay, this is what you're up against. And that's about the right size for them. Okay. As you can well imagine, thank you so much, there, Nightmare. As you can well imagine, I collect these little monsters. Got a couple that float around here once in a while. Because remember, with the Yldrbac, they actually are an astral critter at this point. They moved into the astral plane. Much like the whale used to walk on land and retreated to the ocean. Yeah, I've got something in excess of 500 figures at this point there, me. Hey, Shadow, how you doing? Which color am I going to paint which? Shadow's just asked, what color are you going to paint it? What I'm not certain of is which figure you're referring to. Oh, no, the dragon came that way, and it's just staying that way. Okay, this particular little dragon, this one is not going to change at all. That was actually, this actually is a store-bought one. But if you give me half a second, I will answer that question in another sort of fashion. Give me just half a sec. But what time are we here? Yeah, we got lots of room. Give me half a sec. I'm going to grab a couple and I'll be right back. I need him. Where's the other dragon? I think that's the dragon. So we're getting along in about 10 seconds. Nope, he's not dragon. I'll clean those up afterwards. Because I had to prep the office here, I had to move all the figures out. But these are just 3 of the ones I've got. Hey, Carl, glad to see you. Glad you could join us. Now, there we go. Shadow. Here we are. I haven't quite figured out what color. Okay. But I've got this dragon in, and in all fairness, Carl, no, in all fairness, Shadow, if you've got a suggestion, okay, all of these have to be painted in time. But if you've got a suggestion for a primary color, absolutely, your input with your talent would absolutely be appreciated. Emily, welcome aboard. Glad you could join us. So I've got this particular dragon. Then I've got this one. And then I've got this one here, which actually has a stand that it's got to go on to. So it actually sits up like that. But, so what I haven't quite decided is what color I was thinking, because I haven't finished painting this one. But, we're told, we are told that, dinosaurs and the big lizards were all just this gray kind of color. They weren't. So much as this guy is obviously black, I am looking at highlighting him. Okay. And I haven't quite decided whether to highlight him in red or highlight him in blue. Okay. But like I said, he's a bit of a piece of work. He's a work of art in progress. So I've got lots of room to modify. So, this is one of those things where I look at it and go, your guys' input would be really handy, because I'm using this as a template, as a what's the word? Well, I guess as a prop. Oh, that's the easy part. Embrace yourself for this one, me. I've been country since I was a kid. Okay. I do prefer the faster paced country, but I've always been somebody to turn to the country music. In spite of the fact that the whole area I was in was a Bible Belt that was really heavily into the classic rock. Needless to say, I didn't fit in very well. I've got nothing against bluegrass. I just don't know if I'd recognize it if I heard it. I suspect bluegrass is something similar to country, but I really don't know much about music. I only know that I like country because every time I turn on a country station, that's the one that I tend to stand on. You know, but this being said, much as I have written a few songs that are actually in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, if you're wondering if I'm going to sing them, not a Snowball's Prayer. Not my bag. See, there are a couple of rockabilly songs I do like. I always find the subtle differences for me. It's kind of like the difference between writing in certain genres. Right. You know, I mean, when you talk about rockabilly, you know, I'm thinking, what comes to mind is hillbilly rock. Right. Now, whether that's actually rockabilly or whatever, I don't know. I like the song. A lot of people said, oh, they hated the artist. I'm thinking, like, if he makes a good song, I don't care. I don't, and it doesn't matter to me what the person is. If I like their song, that's what I'm liking. I've only ever been a solid fan of one artist. And in all fairness, that was Olivia Newton-John. She was the only artist I would have gone and seen if I'd had the opportunity. I would have paid to go and see her. The rest of them, I just never found the crowds that appealing. That's where that really comes. Okay, we are talking this dragon. This is the dragon you're referring to there, YJ. And it says here, what does it say here? Iridescent green and purple. Yeah, definitely physical caught my attention. It had a real nice beat to it. Hey world, how you doing? Kind of hoping you were going to show up at some point. Figure you usually do, but quite often you've got a very hectic schedule. But I am very, very pleased to see you got here. And guys, this is the link to World's channel. Okay, and with that in mind, here it is. Do check him out when he's online. Well, check out his channel while he's online. I don't know if you want to check him out or not. Okay, but if you like what he has to say, what he produces, absolutely give him a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel because he's got some really, really neat stories there. But no, with this one, like I'm thinking from that standpoint, what do we got here? Because I figure, the reality is you want something, dragons are supposed to draw your attention. They're not just supposed to disappear. Now, this guy, you got to remember, this particular chap happens to be from underground. Okay. So this guy being black is just a camouflage thing. But highlighting him, and I'm not sure how I'm going to do it yet. There's a rib line down here, and I don't think you can see it. But if I put my finger there, you certainly won't be able to. There's a rib line here that I can run, that I can actually highlight. In either, I'm thinking probably go blue or red. I may decide to go yellow, depending. But to be clear, this particular critter does not breathe fire or anything else. Okay. Well, shut that down, and then of course can't see what the heck I had up there. Go there, and we minimize that. Fantastic. Yeah, the world's just going, I'm waiting for pictures for Sunday's show to come in. Figured I'd listen to you and paint one of my trolls. Yeah, I don't even know if I've got a troll in my collection. Well, no, that's not true. But the trolls that I have in my collection are just little guys. I've got to go and find a big one. I've got a number of giants, number of dragons, but the majority of my figures are all that size. And that's why on Sundays when I do come on for the open topic, I've usually got the paints out so I can work with those. But what I'm starting to do now is finding different characters that I can turn around and go, okay, when I'm talking about this character and I'm striving to choreograph things, I use the figures to lay it out. Now, of course, in Kimberly's case, clearly, well, I sure hope that Kimberly, if you're still here, I'm hoping that your memoirs are not chock full of bloodbaths. You know, that I think would be a really rough life to have lived. You know, but the nice part about it, when you're looking at your life the way it is, if you are content with it, absolutely stay on track. You know, if you're happy with the way your life is running, then there is no reason to shift it. But if you're not content with one aspect of it, just one, okay, if you're not content with it, then absolutely turn around, you know, absolutely turn around and make certain that you're making the adjustments to the way your life is going. Alter that energy pattern. Okay. Where are we going here? Gotta move that out of the way. Yeah. I do agree with you there, you know, from that standpoint. And thank you for answering that there, YJ. Um, you know, I'm not good with the blending colors, as it were, but I do understand what you're referring to. So it probably won't be as good as some, but hey, what the heck? Oh, nice. Yeah, I don't even, in all fairness, because I'm still partially colorblind, it turns out, I don't do a lot of mixing paints as far as the actual paints themselves go because I can't match them later. You know, so I just don't bother. Yeah, ain't that the truth? That's why I keep telling people, Carl. Carl just goes, I'm just glad my life is still going. You know, people ask me how I'm doing when I get up in the morning. It's like, well, woke up on the right side of the grass, so I'm in good shape. You know, or well, let's see, legs working, the lungs are working, the heart's still ticking. I'm good. As it turns out, I'm getting less and less inclined to leave my house, mind you, because I'm running into way too many complications with people that I just cannot understand. Or, as I've told people, it may be a question if I understand them all too well. Okay, so when we're talking about using your imagination to change your life, okay, very necessary to do that. Yeah, my body's trying to sneeze and doesn't want to. Hey, I just hate that feeling. I don't know about you guys. But you know, you get this feeling, oh, I gotta sneeze, and all of a sudden it stops, and you're going, well, that was kind of anticlimactic. Mind you, on the other hand, when I do sneeze, I end up biting my tongue half the time. And that's just no fun. But yeah, I'm looking at the figures I've got here, going, I've got to get some of these wrapped up, and I've got more than enough to keep me occupied for a while. I actually went so far the other day. I took probably 40 or 50 figures and put stands on them all. You know, just so I've got something to work with. But you take a look at the way your life is sitting. Are you content with where it is? If you're not, pick one thing you're not content with. That's the first one you change. You know, I like this particular one. I'm thinking if I turn what do we got there, world? Oh yeah. Yeah, no. Oh yeah, I've got the bay here. I do have a bay here. Um no, they really don't. And that's one of the biggest things I look at. I mean, I'm all for creative, for artist interpretation. But it's like I told somebody, like I was approached. Somebody approached me a few months back about the potentiality of my turning this into a movie, right? And I'm like, I don't have a problem with it once I get the first one done. But they wanted me to fork out. I think they were talking about $16,000 to start, and I'm like, no, you're just looking to make money off of my work. You're not actually interested in investing, you know. But no, the bay here, I just look at it going, it works, okay. But when I'm doing this little critter here, I'm actually planning on painting him to match. Okay, and I'll be making certain that the added pieces, that the added description goes into the book. You know, because for me it really does boil down to the more realistic I can make things. Yes, science fiction, science fantasy. What's this? Yeah, right now finances are really kind of a tight little deal. And I'm sure you're aware of that, but I appreciate that. You know, yeah, the one that I got that was put out by the gaming company, and I have no idea what the gaming company is. Yeah, and I appreciate that little tip there, YJ. You know, things like this, guys, like YJ's just saying, a cheap way to make a mini get the metallic iridescent look is with women's eyeshadow mixed in a matte clear. Okay. And of course, it's the question of getting the ratios right that throws me. Ah, thank you so much, there, world. Trust you to have the information on the tip of your fingers. you know, oh, is that what it is? See, when I started buying figures way back when I was getting into the pewter ones, it was Citadel and Ralph Partha that I was getting from that we were getting them from. I don't know whatever happened to them. Okay, maybe the cost just got too prohibitive. But it is one of those things that I'm looking at going, this is this is a way to express your creative side. And from what I've gathered, okay, I mean, gaming online is great. Don't get me wrong. There's a lot of fun to it for a lot of people. Okay, but I've tried it a little online. I always found, oh, there you go. Yeah, I just go with the ones that are available in the shop in town. I don't go shopping online. A lot of that is because I don't do much online. This is about the biggest thing I do online. You know, and now it's going to be a question of finding ways of getting my book visible and then figuring out a way to ship it out. One thing that was told to me by a friend of mine, he goes, "Go talk to the bookstores." And I'm going to put this out to you guys because it seems like a functional way of doing it. What he suggested was, because I have to, one of the reasons these books are the price they are, okay, is because it cost me with the company I'm using, because it's a small company. It cost me $20 to actually print each book. But what this friend of mine suggested was pick up 10 of them, hand them to a bookstore owner, tell them you sell them for 40, which is the same price I sell them for. I sell them at 40 plus shipping. But he says you give them to the store owner, right? You tell them, okay, you sell them for 40, you keep 10 of it and give me 30 back. That way I've still got enough money, I'm getting profit, and I've still got enough money coming in to reorder. And that said, and this is just you guys, this is to anybody that's listening. If you decide you'd like to do that, okay, I will arrange to have them shipped down, and I'll figure out because I got to look into what the price would be. to do the actual shipping, right? And then do it that way, where you simply are going to end up making a profit yourself as well, because it's just absolutely stupid of me to think that, people out there, yourselves included, you may well be the nicest people in the world, okay, but things take time. They do take time, they do take effort. So it's just one of those ideas that was dropped in my lap about a way of getting my books moved. So if any of you decide you're interested in that kind of an arrangement, I will be looking into it this week to find out what kind of price I'm looking at as far as shipping goes. Guys, let's face it, shipping is going to kill me. Well, metaphorically speaking, it's certainly keeping the cost up. But it is a way to actually work things out. Because again, if we rely on the big companies only, they're making a killing on things. Absolutely. But they're no better than the little guys. In my opinion, they've got a better cash flow, and that's pretty much it. Okay. But the number of big companies I've dealt with that have turned around and told me one thing, I paid for it and gotten jack in return for it. Okay. And that's not the type of jack that you used to get when I was drinking. Okay, getting a jack when I was drinking, that worked out well. But when you're looking at your creative side, you've got to, people told me, think outside the box. And my biggest question has always been, would somebody mind showing me where the box is? Okay. And that comment could go all sorts of really, really bad places that are at a lonely. But I've always wondered, where the heck is the box that you're supposed to be thinking outside of? Okay. So I'm just looking at different ways of making things happen, because my reality is this. I don't desire to actually have to rely on anybody else, okay, for work for me to survive. And at this point, that's very much where it's pointing. Not a good place to be pointing, by the way. So right now, see, here's where when I'm looking at the chronicles, okay, and whenever you're writing a series, I always find it best if you can link them together. Like I was watching one, not watching, I was talking to somebody on one of the science fiction book sites. Mr. L, how you doing? Glad you could join us. And he asked if I, what my authors were that I like. I remember there was an author way back by the name of Robert Adams, and he wrote a whole series of books about this chap that was immortal. Okay, a chap by the name of Milo Morey. And I love the way that he always tied the books together. They always had this one, they weren't all tied together, but they had this one primary character that ran through all of the books. I mean, that's the reality. I'm just looking back at this here world. You said the 5th edition D&D minis that are coming out, they don't match. But what I found, and it's just my personal opinion, is that when they switched over to 5th edition, they took a lot of the wide-ranging imagination out of it, and they put too many rules and too many, here's what your limits are, instead of letting the characters develop and be a product of the imagination. Where it comes to, I'm hoping, because, where'd it go? That's Mr. Dreamcatcher. That was the first story that I wrote. Okay, as far as the Dreamcatcher series went. And then this one was one that came up afterwards. But what it boiled down to was this one. I wrote Mr. Dreamcatcher for my eldest son. Okay. This second version I wrote for my second son. Okay, but I'll show you something here. If I have to open this one up. In Mr. Dreamcatcher, it starts off looking like this. Okay, and then it becomes him. Now, when I wrote Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns, there's Mr. Dreamcatcher Returns. You notice the similarity. Okay. Well, I had at one point, and I'm hoping I've still got it somewhere, but I wrote a third one called Mr. Dreamcatcher Reborn. Okay. What do we got? Oh, you're kidding me. World's just going, Hasbro owns it now, and they put water wings and safety bumpers on it so characters don't get killed and snowflakes don't get their feelings hurt. There's just, I don't know about you there, world, but there's just something wrong with that. You know, to me, that just is not what D&D was designed as. You know, I mean, I remember one day, you know, I had a character that we were in the middle of a fight, and that was fine. And we were playing the game, and my little halfling got picked up by a troll. Well, the troll didn't kill him. The characters in the party, 3 of them had a critical failure and ended up shooting my halfling. So, I mean, granted, the halfling did die, but he didn't die because the troll got to him. You know, I mean, the thing is, with what they've done their world, and again, this is just my imagination getting a little carried away on occasion, but if I desire a superhero game, you know, the one that we really liked, I mean, we did try DC Heroes, right? But the one I really liked was Champions. You know, because it had the most realistic interaction. Yeah. Ain't that the truth, world? My curiosity, but what was the worst night you had in the way of going through characters that you recall? Because I will tell you, I thought I had it bad. I had one game when the game ran. We were gaming for 8 hours, and I went through 7 brand new characters before the end of the game, like before the end of the night. My buddy, on the other hand, did one worse, and he went through 8. You know, but no, you really have to. And the one thing, whoops. Yeah, the 7 I lost were all main characters. It was not a good night, although I did find creative ways of doing it. I mean, one character in particular, and this is why I say, guys, if thinking about doing something is as bad as doing it, I would not live very long. I had a character he was a halfling. Okay, but he was a halfling thief mage. And he's sneaking through this dragon, and bad idea. Really bad idea. Do not go sneaking into a dragon's lair. But I did one worse than the whole 9 yards. The dragon reared its head, and it's right above me and talking to me and doing the whole normal thing of drawing things out. And then it went to breathe. Well, a red dragon, as you well know, breathes fire. So what did my character in his all-knowing wisdom do? He grabbed a handful of sneezing powder, and just as the dragon inhaled, he fires the sneezing powder up into the dragon's mouth. Well, for some bizarre reason, my halfling didn't survive. You know, but I take scenes like that. Now, in this case, I haven't seen a spot where that's going to be useful. But there are scenes in games that I've used directly to put into the Yldrbacian Chronicles as events going on. And this is why I say, where it comes to the Yldrbacian Chronicles, it is written by a gamer, that's me, for gamers. And in the Yldrbacian Chronicles, there is a group of gamers that is doing their level best to survive. Now, they do not play a big role, okay? But that's because the people that do play the role are the ones that are actually doing the fighting. And the gamers, in case you hadn't noticed, most gamers, we've got literally hundreds of thousands of people playing role-playing games. And not a one of them that I've ever heard of on the news has ever sat down and cast an actual fireball. Okay. Now, we've got stories about people riding dragons. I don't know about you guys, but has anybody in real life actually witnessed somebody getting onto the back of a dragon and flying away? Or for that matter, have you even seen a dragon flying overhead? Actually, I did. I saw one probably about 6 weeks ago. I saw a video of one. There is no question the thing was either a dragon or it was a dinosaur. Take your pick. Okay. But it was a video that was shot that was absolutely brilliant. Yeah, Skyrim. Well, Adam, where are we? Adam, I'm sure you'll reckon I'm not doing that. I made that mistake last week. This little guy here. Oh, I can't reach him. I'm sure you'll recognize this little monster. There we have one little bots from, well, little bots. I actually in the last campaign I ran, the guys were getting carried away. They were getting really stupid, so I decided to do something mean because they weren't paying attention. Right? Here's your regular people. So I put them up against him. Guess who won? Because what they were doing was killing everything. They were supposed to be good characters, and they were killing people just on a whim. So I finally looked and I went, no, let's put them up against that. Now that little thing. I used to play Skyrim a lot until I had the stroke and my left hand wouldn't work properly. But I am considering trying to dig it out again if we've still got it. See, that's so much safer than getting up on the stool, because you guys saw a couple of weeks back, I got up on the stool too many times. Yeah, they were not happy. I did this to them one day. It was funny. Right. I took this little critter and I took this little critter, but I had a dire wolf that I had. But I took this little critter, I set it on the dining room table, and I planted it right in front of the gamers, and I went, this is literally what you're facing. Right. Of course, they got all panicky, and I looked at them again, and I said, this is literally what you're facing. Right. Well, I'm looking at it from the character standpoint. Yeah, I didn't do well in the Fallout series. Of course, the Fallout series, I found my son used to play it. Yeah, they did. They became murderer. I mean, they walked into a room one day. They walked into a bar and they wiped out everybody. They were supposed to kill one person. Right. They'd been hired to kill one person. Well, what did these geniuses do? And they did kill the person they were supposed to kill. They walked into a bar and their mage lit off a fireball. It did kill the guy in the bar. Unfortunately, it wiped out half the rest of the people too. But this is what your imagination can do in a real hurry if you let it. Now, I've gone to writing science fiction, science fantasy, self-help, children's, reference, and poetry. I think one of the worst ones I did, and I gotta figure out a way to put that to do this one. Okay, but I had a character, and he'd gotten up in levels, so of course going after a dragon wasn't an unheard of idea. You know, he had a lot of people with him when he went after it. But due to circumstances and a real stupid move to start with, he jumped on the back of this wagon of this dragon. He was planning on trying to do something from there. Didn't know what at the time. But the dragon all of a sudden took off the ground and goes way up in the sky and then spots its cave entrance. So this dragon, because I'm digging a hole in its back with a sword, well, you can tell that's going to take a while. So this dragon decided it was going to dive bomb into its tunnel, right? Goes into a full dive, and my game master, he goes, "This is what he's doing." I went, "Okay." He says, "What do you do?" I said, "That's easy. I cast full level Wall of Force." Now, Wall of Force, you got to be pretty high level to start with. So I cast a Wall of Force in this tunnel. Well, because of the amount of area, the game master ruled that it was a lot thicker than normal, right? So I put a Wall of Force plug in there and then bailed off the dragon. I'll tell you, I think I had 3 hit points left. The dragon, on the other hand, ran at a full dive, head first into a Wall of Force. Its tail caught up with its head. I ended up with a dead dragon on my hands. You know, but the imagination, when we talk about the imagination being the key to your success, take a look at whatever you desire, whatever change you feel is necessary in your life. Okay, that is the thing you have to really start looking at. That's what you start changing. Okay, and all you have to do is shift the energy just a little, so that you're working towards the goal you're aiming for. Now, I just noticed the time we're sitting at here. And with that in mind, guys, thank you so much for joining me. Thank you so much for sharing your time. And I will be back again. Tomorrow's Thursday, so I won't be back. And tomorrow is not Thursday. What is tomorrow? I've lost what track and what day of the week I'm on. That's just terrible. Oh, tomorrow's Saturday. Well, of course, because last night was gaming. So I will be back again tomorrow, and I think I've got it sorted out. Oh, yes. Tomorrow, we are going to be delving into the quantum and subquantum realms and how they are interconnected and how they actually work with each other. That ought to be an interesting one. Okay, but until then, guys, thanks again so much. Absolutely, until we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.